Hey, everybody, this is Lorraine Ball. And today we're going to talk about how defining your ideal client can make your marketing more productive and more efficient. Ready? Let's get started. The first premise that I want to put out there is that everyone is not your customer. No matter how universal you think your product is, the truth is some people are more likely to buy. And if you want to get the biggest bang for your advertising dollars, then you need to focus on the people that are most likely to buy. The challenge is, how do you find them? Well, that's what we're going to focus on. I want you to think for a moment about Coca-Cola. Everybody loves Coke, right? But the truth is, customers are not one size fits all. Even people that like soda and soft drinks don't all drink Coke. And if a company as big and robust as Coke understands this, you need to as well. Because the truth is, there are people in the world like me who haven't had a Coke in years. Why? Because in a world full of chocolate, why am I going to spend 150 calories on Coke? Instead, Coca-Cola says, okay, some people like Coke, and some people might like our Diet Coke product or our bottled water. They're big enough they can afford to offer all those different products and create different marketing campaigns for each of them. You do not see Diet Coke and Coca-Cola promoted side by side because the people they're talking to are different audiences. For a smaller business, what I want you to do is think about one product, one audience. You may, over time, reach out to different groups, but start with that one client. Think about who is it that will buy from you. Your ideal client is someone who finds the most value in your product or service. At the end of the day, they're likely to buy from you because they see the value. Those are your easy sales. They will refer other people to you. The trick is you also want to make sure that they're profitable to do business with. It is way easier to talk to 2 or 3 people who already kind of know what you do and realize they have a need for it than it is to try to talk to everyone, wasting a lot of energy on people who aren't going to see the value, won't be interested, and will probably never buy from you. Defining your ideal client is about using your marketing resources wisely. When you're thinking about defining that ideal customer, you want to start with what I consider the observable characteristics, the demographics, age group, gender, location. If you have a regional business that is geographically constrained, if you have a landscape company, you don't care about customers 4 states away. If you have a heating and air conditioning company or a flooring company or a roofing company, you're not going to go beyond a certain geographic boundary. So, location. It may or may not look at things like career, income, education. Those are a little harder to get to, but you still can define those characteristics. Honestly, the U.S. Census has fabulous data that can help you figure out, are there enough people in this category? You also want to think about things like ethnicity, culture, race. Does it make a difference for your particular product? And family status or life cycle. Where are they in their lives? And let me give you an example. Women, age 20 to 35. That's a segment, right? But good marketing goes beyond that. Because the reality is women age 20 to 35 may buy a lot of the same products or they may not. And they may buy products for different reasons. Let's look at some of these women. On the one hand, you've got a 25-year-old woman who's working at a coffee shop, or a 25-year-old woman who is a school teacher. They're the same age. They may have grown up together, living across the street from each other, but they're in very different places in their life. One is definitely more established and more settled down. She's maybe looking at furnishings for her apartment. She may be considering buying a home. Let's look at woman number in the C. This is a woman who's working in an office. Her requirements for what does she wear? What does she consider in terms of cooking and shopping? If she's working a 9-to-5 job, she doesn't have the same kind of time the school teacher has who's done at 3 o'clock every day. And she certainly doesn't have the flexibility of the woman in the coffee shop. Woman number D, I don't know what she does for a living, but she's all about the party. She's in that place in her life where she's enjoying going out, and anything surrounding perhaps home and hearth is not really going to be relevant for her. So talking to her about a product that makes her home more comfortable is just not going to resonate. And our last woman in this age category, she's a mom. Her whole world has changed. Her priorities are different. And so when you're targeting women 20 to 35 or 25 to 35, I'm going to ask you which woman. Because even on a product that they all buy, they're going to buy it for different reasons. They're going to use the product and think about how important it is to them in a different light. The more you know about the best customers, it doesn't mean I can't sell to all these other women, but what it means is I'm going to focus my messaging to talk to the new mom. I'm going to focus my messaging to talk to the woman who's in her first job. And they're going to be most likely to respond positively. I want to think about those psychographic characteristics: personality, motives, lifestyle. What do they really need? I'm going to get a little geeky marketing here for just a minute, but I'm going to tell you that you need to match your product to the needs of your ideal client. And you can't do that if you don't really know that customer. You have to look beyond some of the superficial. These two guys look pretty much the same, don't they? I'm going to tell you, they're obviously brothers. They're obviously twins. They both went to law school. They both work for law firms. And so from the superficial, age, income, education, same. They're both married. Check. But they're not the same. The guy on the left is married to his high school sweetheart. The last of their children is finishing up college, and they're planning that wonderful vacation that they've always wanted to take, that 2 to 3 week European vacation. He's thinking about finally trading in that Dodge minivan for that 2-seater Audi he thinks would just be fun to hop around town. His brother is also married to a much younger second wife who has just told him she's pregnant. Suddenly, he's thinking about things like college funds. He's selling his 2-seater Audi for that Dodge minivan, and his vacations are going to be spent a lot in Disneyland over the next few years. And so they're the same, but they're not. With regard to certain products, they will be the same. Clothes, perhaps. Insurance, perhaps. But vacation messaging? No. Cars? No. So, what product are you selling? Who's most likely to need that product. This is where I get, like as promised, a little geeky about marketing. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I think he developed this chart in the 1940s. And his basic premise was that as you think about people, they are on different tiers of this hierarchy. At the basic level, people have physiological needs. They need food, they need water, they need warmth. These are your basic needs. And they're not going to worry about anything else if they don't have food, if they don't have protection from the elements. Next comes the security needs, safety, security, still in kind of that basic category. But the reality is, if you don't have food, you're not going to be necessarily as concerned about safety. And you see this in war zones. When a mother is trying to feed her starving children, she will take risks. Once she has food for her children, she's going to be more concerned about other safety elements. The next level are the belonging and love and feeling a part of a community. These are important psychological and social needs. But if you're starving, if you are afraid that a bomb is going to be dropped on your head, if you don't live in a safe neighborhood and you are concerned about walking to the bus, you're not necessarily going to be as focused on building that community. But once you have those basics taken care of, now you start building a community. You start looking for products that help you feel more a part of a group. When that's taken care of, then come the esteem needs. Now you're looking for things that not only make you feel part of the group, but make you feel good about yourself, maybe a little bit more important. Prestige, things that give you a sense of accomplishment. And finally, you get into that self-actualization realm where you're really focused on products and services that help you fulfill a dream, help you feel like you've achieved something. You're not worried about your college education or your college tuition if you're worried about a roof over your head. You're not focused on taking a new art class or photography or develop a cooking skill if you don't really feel a part of a community. Different people are going to be at different places on the spectrum, and different products are going to tap into some of these specific emotional needs. And sometimes a good advertiser will look at their product and say, you know, for this group of customers, we're going to position this as an esteem product. And for this group of customers, we're going to focus on safety and security. Let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. These are both Volvo ads. The first, at least there's one safe place, still one safe place to be. They're building on that part of the Maslow hierarchy of needs that's all about safety, security, protecting yourself, protecting your family. On the other hand, the second ad is celebrations begin with the grace of Swedish luxury. This is all about esteem. It's about luxury. It's about living well. These are essentially the same cars that they're selling, but they're presenting them in two very different ways. They're not trying to talk about luxury and safety in one ad. That's just a disconnect for customers. They recognize some people will respond to safety. Some people will respond to luxury. They're big enough, they can run simultaneous campaigns. When you're smaller, you really need to think about what's the first message people will hear. What's really going to connect with my ideal client? And business to business marketing, there are also segments. When you're dealing with B2B, you need to think about types of businesses. Are we more effective with government organizations, institutions, producers, resellers, small businesses, company size, larger companies? Are we better working with companies that are in the early stage or more established, that they already have some of the systems? Do we want to work with companies that have one location, or do we have a product that's going to work well with companies that actually have multiple offices? And sometimes, are we good with companies that are selling to a particular type of customer? For example, when I was running a marketing agency, one of my favorite marketing segments were companies in the home service industry. Their customers were consumers, and I had a real skill set that matched up with helping them reach that market. So I would look for established companies in home service industries, and I also focused, for a period of time, I only focused on Indiana, and then once I had some of the basics down, then I started looking to clone those companies across state lines. So these characteristics help you figure out, who do you want to talk to? Where do you advertise? With business interactions, you also want to think a little bit about purchase volume. Is your product something that people buy routinely? Is it a one and done kind of sale? How knowledgeable are the buyers in your category? Is this something they buy all the time, or is it, again, something that requires a lot more education? And where are you best matched? Do you like that one and done, always on the hunt for a new customer? Or do you like the kind of business that allows you to build relationships and get that repeat business? There's no right answer. It's just what lines up best with your company structure. You also want to think about the bidding process. Satisfiers tend to be people who place an order with familiar suppliers who can satisfy product and delivery requirements. They are more likely to go back to the same companies over and over again. Once you get that customer, unless you screw it up, you're going to have that customer for an extended period of time. Conversely, optimizers tend to be more purchasing agents. They're going to talk to lots of different companies, and they're going to study proposals carefully. These are more professional buyers. So, do you want to work with companies where you're actually selling to the person who uses your product? Are you more comfortable in these competitive buying situations? And knowing which one is more the norm for your ideal customer can then help you decide what kind of marketing tools you need to take into that sales presentation to close the deal. And so whether you're B2B or B2C, you need to build a profile of who is that ideal client. If you've been in business any length of time, you want to think about these different pieces. You want to think about the demographic factors, the age, gender, location. You also want to think about their values, their attitudes, what's going on in their head. Think of the two brothers who on paper look the same, but are actually very different. You want to think about some of their behaviors. Do they buy your product frequently? Do they change suppliers? And also media consumption. Where are they hanging out online? What do they do in their spare time? You really want this full picture of who they are. The more you know, the more competitive and well thought out your marketing campaigns can be. And don't guess. use data to drive your ideal client profile. Conduct surveys, conduct interviews. Again, if you've been in business for any length of time, look at your customer records. Look at your CRM systems. Look at your data on your website. Who's coming to your site? And look at your competitors. Read their ads and ask yourself, who are they talking to? Just because they seem to be targeting a particular segment does not mean you need to go after the same segment. But look at what they're doing so you have an idea of, do I want to compete heads up with them? Do I want to find a slightly different group that I'm more well suited for? Gather any existing data that you have on your customers. And I always do this exercise, again, with any company that's been in business for a while. I want you to think about your ideal client. If you could only work with one or two clients, who would it be? What is it about those clients that make them good customers? Was it the pain point that they had coming in, common challenges, how your product or service really takes care of them? You want to divide customers into different buckets and then look at who were the most profitable, who are the most engaged, who stay with you, and who do you want to work with? It's not everybody. You can also look at why they buy, and how often. Your product may have 3 or 4 different benefits, but people come to you because it does X. Yeah, it does Y, it does Z, it does all of these things, but people come to you because of this benefit. Well, then that gives you clues on how to market, what to put in your ads. You may also want to start slicing and dicing customers into different categories. If you only have a limited marketing budget, well, then you may not necessarily want to talk to all of your customers. The airlines do this. Think about their frequent flyer programs. They create marketing campaigns ideally designed for customers who use their product more often. They know that by rewarding people for their frequent flyers, rewarding people who fly with them more often, they will get more business. And something else that you want to consider, in almost every business, the 80-20 rule applies. 80% of your volume will actually come from 20% of your customers. So you need to know who that top 20 is. You want to humanize the data and go beyond the numbers. And I've talked about this a little bit already. You want to look at goals and objectives. You want to look at their values, what's important to them, and kind of build this complete picture. You want to think about that customer as an individual and not just when it comes to your product. What other brands do they buy? What other products and services are relevant to them? Why? Because you have to fit perhaps in that world. One of my favorite examples is we were working with an eye doctor who was opening up a new retail location, and he was going to carry only high-end designer frames, Tom Ford, Michael Kors, Dolce & Gabbana. And we had to design a logo for him. The first thing we did is looked at all of those other brands and realized that if we wanted to play in that realm, if we wanted people to think of his eyewear store in that same category, we had to look like those brands. One of the things we noticed was that all of those brands, all their brand names were in all capital letters. So when we designed his logo, that was one of the requirements for the designer. No lowercase. We had to look like we fit those brands. Once you figure out who your customer is, the demographics, the pain points, think about where do they hang out? What social media channels do they use? Think about what they might say about your product or service and create an image, a picture of who that customer looks like. You put all that information together in something called a customer persona, and it'll look somewhat like this. Drew, he's a real person. Okay, he's an influencer. We know a little bit about his age. We know about his motivations. We know about some of his pain points. Or maybe it's Inda. And here we know a little bit about her bio. We know some brands that she likes. The idea is to create a visual so that as you're working on marketing for this customer, you're not talking to women 25 to 35. You're talking to Inda. Or you're talking to Mrs. Clark Grimes. This is a little bit more straightforward. It's not as designed, but it has all the key information. Her bio, her demographics, her gains, her expectations from the product. And remember I said that it's not just consumers. This is Tracy, and Tracy is actually a buyer. She's a software buyer for a company. And I know about the company, but I also need to know about her. How often does she buy? What technology does she use? What is she frustrated with? So when I make my sales presentations, I remember to hit on concepts and ideas that are relevant for her. And as I said in the beginning, think about Coke. They have Coke clients, they have Diet Coke customers, they have water customers. They have a persona, an individual customer profile for each of their products. You may have multiple personas. You may have different groups of people that buy your product and service or buy one of your products, and that's okay. But when you create a marketing campaign, a piece of marketing material, you need to talk to one of these personas. Because what's important to one is not necessarily important to the other. And I know that when I say this, you're like, well, does that mean I can't sell to all of them? No. Marketing and defining your ideal client is not about limiting who you sell to. It's about limiting your marketing. One of my favorite examples is my good friend Denise. Lava soap. We're going to talk more about Lava in a minute, but Lava soap targets men 25 to 55, blue collar or blue collar hobbyists, but it is a male brand. It is a hardworking soap that gets grease off your hands. They do not market their product to educated, middle-aged women, executives. But my friend Denise likes to work on cars in the weekend. And so I guarantee you that whether she's working on a car or working on her bicycle, she's got Lava soap in her garage. And she has it there because she knows what that product does. Lava soap is not going to spend a penny trying to find women like my friend Denise. That is a niche profile. It's not a segment that is profitable to pursue. However, if she goes to the grocery store or the hardware store and says, excuse me, do you carry Lava soap? No one is going to look at her and say, I'm sorry, ma'am. You're not the customer. You can't have it. They're going to say, aisle 2, have a nice day. Defining your target customer, your ideal client is not about who you sell to. It is defining who you target. So let's see how this process works in action. Let's start with soap. I mean, let's be honest. There are a lot of brands of soap, but when you take the paper off and you add water, are they really that different? Are they really at their core that different in what they deliver? And the answer is no. But there's a whole industry around creating segments for each of these soaps. And I didn't work for Procter & Gamble. I don't know if this is exactly their target, but their targeting might look something like this. I've got my 4 soaps and I'm thinking about age, gender, family, career, income, relevant, observable demographic characteristics. So, Ivory Soap, women 20 to 40, Olay, women 40 and up, Axe, this is a young man's soap, 14 to 25, and Lava, men 25 and up. Ivory Soap, your stay-at-home mom. Olay, maybe they're targeting divorced career women. Axe, young single guys, probably still students. And Lava, your blue-collar workers. And so you have these characteristics in mind, and you want to start humanizing the segments. Remember, you want a name, you want a face, and you want to know, why do they buy that brand? So meet Brittany. She buys Ivory Soap, family focused. She really is concerned about pure products for her baby. She's also probably price conscious. As a new mom, there may not be a lot of extra money in the budget. Jennifer, the Olay customer, is she's recently divorced, so she's focused on her career. She's focused on dating. What does she want? Purity is not really a factor. She wants to look younger. She wants that moisturizing benefit of an Olay brand soap. And the truth is, she's willing to splurge a little bit on herself. Jacob, he likes sports, he likes video games, and he wants odor protection. Why? Because after he's done playing basketball with his buddies, he wants to go see that girl, and he does not want a negative reaction when he gets close to her. So he's concerned about his appearance. He's concerned about how he smells. And David, with Lava Soap, he likes TV sports. He probably watches NASCAR. This is one reason that NASCAR is the official, Lava is the official soap of NASCAR. Big thing for him is grease removal. He doesn't really care how it smells. He wants to make sure that what he's using is going to take that grease off his hands. And for him, he expects products to do what they promise. There is a belief that the product that you pay for, there should be a value there. So you've given them a face, you've given them a name, and now you're ready to start thinking about, okay, how do I market to them? How do I present my product in a way that makes sense? And the trick is to use what you know to create relevant messages and media placement. Now, I'm not going to go through all 4 of these customers, but I'm going to give you 2 examples that can get you thinking a little bit about what you might need to do for your ideal client. You want to think about, who's my client? What messages? What am I going to say to them that's really going to hit their pain points? You want to think about products that specifically meet their needs. If Ivory Soap was thinking about adding another product, knowing that their customer is new moms, 20 to 35, 20 to 40, they're not going to think about, oh, you know what? We should offer a perfume-based ivory. Not a fit. Oh, but we could offer a liquid ivory that has that same purity factors. So the products that you offer and the additions and the extra features that you build in, don't just add features because you can. Well, we could add this extra cleaning grease removal to ivory. Yeah, but your customer doesn't want that. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And then focus on channels where your client spends time with your advertising. So again, here are just two examples. I'm going to do Ivory and Olay. With Brittany, I might advertise in parenting and lifestyle magazines because that's what she's reading. I might go to websites that, again, talk about those parenting tips. I might offer samples to pediatricians, hospitals, mommy and me classes. Think about it. You're getting ready to leave the hospital. And if you have a new baby, if you've been through this experience, you remember that moment where they hand you the baby and they hand you that new baby kit. And in it are samples of all sorts of products you can use safely with your new baby. If you're like me, those products had the gold seal of approval because they came from the hospital. And so if you can get your product into that bag, you've already got that endorsement. You might think about in-store promotions at children's furniture stores or toy stores. And as far as social media, this customer right now, Instagram and Pinterest. And you might create content for parent blogs and websites. And that's Brittany. While some of the ideas will be similar for Jennifer, where those ideas play out, totally different. For example, Jennifer, I'm going to look at upscale magazines, Real Simple, Elle, Harper's Bazaar. I might do a sample promotion, but I'm going to offer it at spas and yoga studios. I might even think about advertising on adult dating sites, the ones that are really geared to 55 and up or 40 and up, that are not the ones most common among younger consumers. As far as social media, right now, I'm going to use Facebook because that's where she's going to be probably most often connecting with old high school and college friends. She's been on Facebook, if not since college, quickly, just relatively soon thereafter. And this is where her community still is. I might look at celebrity influencers, spokespeople, successful, attractive women who are not 25 years old. Reese Witherspoon, Julia Roberts, Brene Brown. Bottom line is you want to think about what's important to your customer, where is your customer hanging out, and how do you play? You can do this exercise with any number of products. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I even went to ChatGPT and I said, hey, this is my product. This is my customer. Help me figure out what might be a good marketing plan for this client. Once you know the customer, it's easier to fill in the blanks. And I want to just take a moment and get for a word of warning. One of the traps that we fall into is we are successful with our product, with our market. We know our place in the world. And we're like, well, there's this other customer. That's what Irish Spring did. Back in the 70s and 80s, they were the men's soap. This was the product that most young men bought when they started buying their own soap. Before the days of Axe, it was all about Irish Spring. Had great odor protection, did a good job of cleaning. They really owned a piece of the market. And they were a men's soap. And somebody in their marketing department said, we're missing a whole segment. We need to appeal to women. That's not a bad strategy. What they should have done was come up with different packaging and a different product that they could sell to women. Instead, they simply tried to tack on the women to their marketing campaign. Every Irish Spring television commercial ended with the guy talking about how he liked the product and a girl coming along and kissing him. And the message was very clear. Irish Spring, you use our soap, you get the girl. So how do they appeal to women? The girl comes up, she still kisses him, and then looks at the camera and says, and I like it too. Okay, why this didn't work? Number one, women weren't buying it. We didn't really like her. And she didn't say anything about why she liked it other than she was pleasing her man by buying the same soap. The message fell flat with women. They did not build a market with women, and that would have been okay. It wouldn't have cost them that much. But it gets worse. Their core customers bought the product because it smelled good, but it was also strong enough to really get rid of the odors. Well, now men started thinking, well, if women can use it, maybe it's not strong enough for men. And their market share tanked. It took decades to recover, and they're just now really finding their footing again because they diluted their messaging. They tried to talk to so many people, pretending they all cared about the same thing, and they didn't. If you are ready to work on your ideal client, if you want to explore this topic in more detail and see how some of these ideas can apply to your business, go ahead and schedule a working session with me. morethanafewwords.com/office hours. I would love to talk